but they both, Nate actually asked me to record it, which is kind of nice because I think he's on a plane from wherever he's going. So, anyways, so can you guys see the screen?
No,
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I can
Um,
see Kevin's screen.
I can see your face, but I can't see there's nothing there.
Huh. Let's see.
Jen, can you see it?
I
Okay.
see you and Todd.
But you don't see section 4. Let's see.
Not yet.
Show show this. You see anything now? Let's see. Oh, we got something there.
No, I can see it.
Oh, so you can see the screen now?
I can, yeah.
I can too.
Okay, it says section 4, make the most important investment decision of your life.
Yes.
Sweet. All right, we're on. So we're off and running. So I don't know how long it's going to take. There's a lot of stuff I want to go over. I'm actually really excited about this section. I didn't think I was going to be, and then I prepared a little bit last week, and then I kind of finished it this morning. So there's a lot of good stuff in this section. So let's jump right into it. So section 4 is all about diversification. I want to, as I like to start every one of our sessions, I want to at least give you guys the opportunity to talk about anything that you learned. Maybe it's about the homework. And if you say I didn't learn anything or I don't want to talk, that's fine too. I just want to give the opportunity. So my first slide is review of the workout card. On the workout card, there is two. Let me see if I can pull that up. So we have a few things. One is, can you see the Google spreadsheet on your screen?
Nope.
Okay, that's why I asked. Let's do this. What about now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's forget about section 1, section 2. Section 3, complete a personal financial statement. Don't feel like I'm trying to catch you guys without doing your homework, but I just want to answer honestly. Were you guys able to do a personal financial statement? I'll start with you, Jennifer.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
I did them both.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of depressing when you look at what you owe for your house and then you look at everything you have and it's still, you could never pay that off. Like, I don't know.
Well, first question
in a month, you know what I mean? I don't have $300,000, so.
Right. Did you, I think this is important. Have you ever done a personal financial statement before?
Not in that way. I mean,
formally?
I keep track of everything, and
Right.
I like to keep track of how much debt we have as far as like mortgage and car loan and a school loan, but not in the way that you had it set up.
Right. And then the idea of the personal financial statement is you have your debt, which is kind of the crappy part of our portfolio, and we have the assets, which is what they're worth. My goal is not to depress you, but that's the thing. The only way we can make changes is by seeing what we're doing. I think most 95% of the people out there in this country don't have a freaking clue of how much they owe versus how much assets they have. So on your personal financial statement, without getting into any specific numbers, Jennifer, did you put something in there for the value of your house? I think you said last time you were upside down when you got into it. Are you still upside down?
Well, that is a bit of good news. After last time, I looked into refinancing, and then after what Kevin and Caroline were talking about, a 20-year, I thought, let me look at that. I wonder if I can do that. And we can, and it ends up being, because I pay a little bit more in principal as it is, so our new monthly mortgage payment would be what I am paying now, but I just knocked off like 6 years and $60,000 worth of interest.
Well,
So, yay for me.
If I had my applause ready, but I'm on Kathy's computer, I'd be pressing my applause button. But so that's awesome, Jennifer. Congratulations. It honestly makes me feel warm in my heart that my idea of having this class is actually helping somebody. And I know I am, but it's just nice to hear that it's actually working. So thank you for sharing that. So, but I just want to get specific because I didn't quite understand. So what you're saying is that you put additional principal down? Because hopefully at the end of tonight's class, I want to talk a little bit about reducing your mortgage payment or different tricks you could do. But help me understand exactly what you just said, because it kind of floated through me.
Sure. So right now we have a 30-year fixed mortgage, and I pay about $200 more in principal per month just to get the principal down,
Yeah.
because we have that available right now. And
Right.
so by refinancing to a 20-year, our payment goes up, but our interest rate went down.
Mm-hmm.
So now it ends up being that our payment is going to be what I am paying now anyway for our 30-year.
At a lower interest rate.
At a lower interest rate in less time. Because what Kevin was saying, he said 20 years, and that really stuck with me, because 20 years sounds doable. It's like, okay, I'll be not even retired by that time, and our house will be paid off. What a good feeling,
Right. That's so awesome. So are you in the process of refinancing,
We
or?
actually are, yeah.
Got it. And so
And
you've
it's
already got that
really
going.
scary how quickly they will make it happen for you.
That's interesting, because I had friends who refied. Now, this is a few years ago, and maybe that's when there's like a huge influx, but the amount of paperwork and documentation and everything else. So let me ask another question. How did you figure out which either bank you went to or which mortgage broker you went to?
Well, I started out just at Bankrate just to look at the rates, and then they lead you to LendingTree, and so I was like, okay, I'll just give it a shot. And once you put in your information, man, you got people calling you from all over the place, and it was a little daunting, because it's like, ABC Lending Financial Institution is like, who is that?
Right.
Is that a trustworthy place? Anyway, it ended up we're going with Quicken Loans.
Yep.
Which they are quick, I'll give you that.
Any
but we
idea
also have-
when you'll be done?
Probably by next week.
Wow, that's so great. I'm so happy
Yeah.
for you.
Thank you.
Well, as long as we're talking about mortgages, I actually fast forwarded to one of the last slides because I did want to talk about it. So just for Kevin and Carolyn and Jennifer, and for Laura and Nate, who hopefully will be listening to this on a recording, and I've sent this in an email, but I think it bears worth repeating, because our mortgage is our biggest payment that we're probably ever going to do in our whole lives. So it's a really huge deal. It's one thing for me to clip out coupons for the grocery store, but really my energy should be directed towards my mortgage. So the fact that, Jennifer, you've already taken steps, and I know Kevin and Carolyn have done that recently as well. And I was a little confused on the last call. I used to know it and I didn't know it, so I researched it. So just to kind of restate what we've talked about for these first 10 minutes, is the difference between a 15 and a 30 years. A 15 almost always commands a lower interest rate, as Jennifer is realizing right this moment. And the reason they do that is because the bank's risk is less. They don't have to predict what interest rates are for 30 years. They only have to predict what the interest rates will be for 15 years. So because of that, they actually lower your interest rate. The crappy part about a 20 or a 15-year payment is that you're locked into it. And what I mean by that is a lot of people get a 30-year and they just pay the extra principal when they can. Whereas, let's say your mortgage payment, now that you refied, and I'm just making up numbers, is $1,000, but you only have 800. Well, if you only pay the bank 800, they're going to start taking steps to scare you, hit you with penalties and everything else. So that's the bad part about getting to a shorter term interest rate. One example that I'll give is, if somebody were in a position, should I go from a 30-year to a 15? Because your payment is most likely going to be higher. And what is, Jennifer, you may have already said this to me, but is your mortgage payment going to be the same, more or less than it was when you had the 30?
It will be more, but
It'll be more, right?
But I make higher. I already pay more on the principal anyway.
Right. So you're doing that anyway. So if somebody were to say, should I refi to a 15-year? My answer is almost always yes. But or when you shouldn't do it is, for example, like, well, I can go to a 15-year, but I'm not going to be able to take advantage of my 401k matching program. Like, I would never advise that. Like, I would always take advantage of your 401k matching program because that's free money. So, but if you are in the financial position where you can afford to go to a 20-year or 15-year, you absolutely have to take advantage of it. And in the end, you'll end up saving, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. And Jennifer, I apologize for making you repeat yourself, but tell me again what you're going to save in interest by doing this from a 30 down to a 20.
It's about $60,000.
60,000 freaking dollars. Think how much money that is. So when I'm clipping out coupons for the grocery store, I should instead be shopping mortgages just to make sure, because interest rates are probably going to be going up sometime soon. They keep thinking that it's going to go up, and the Fed chairman, Janet Yellen, still hasn't done it. But once those rates go up, I'm guessing that the mortgages will start to tick up as well, although they're not completely symmetrical or in alignment. So following through. So before I move on to the other part about tricks on how to save money on your mortgage, Kevin and Carolyn, does that all make sense to you? Do you have any questions on it?
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the next slide, tricks to save money on your mortgage. And I'm going to go through these really quickly because I have a lot of things that I want to go over tonight. But one is to make an extra payment every year. And it's funny, I've been in positions, like I get a Christmas bonus from my boss every year, and I usually just stick that money into a savings account or something like that, or a rainy day fund. And I've never done I'll just make an extra mortgage payment just for kicks. And after going through this exercise, it's something I'm actually going to consider when I do get my Christmas bonus, because if I do that every year, then I could take 6 years off the life of the loan and everything else. So that is one technique that a lot of people do. And, if you get a Christmas bonus, or maybe if you get your tax return back in February or March or April, that's something you can do. And by the way, when you file your tax return, if you guys think that you are going to owe money, I would file your tax return on April 15th for no other reason than you don't need to give the government an interest-free loan for a while. But if you know you're getting money back, which I usually do. Last year I didn't because of some other reasons, but I usually get money back. I file as early as I can because I can get that money earlier and I could put that money to work earlier. So that's kind of a sidebar, but that's kind of a rule of thumb that I like to follow. So extra payment a week. Another way is a lot of banks allow you to do bi-weekly payment plans. There's 52 weeks in a year, which actually, and if you think about, if you just do monthly payments, there's 4 weeks in a month, so that's 48 weeks. But actually, there's 52 weeks in a year. And what a lot of people do is they pay their mortgage every other week. So like they get paid, let's say, every other Friday. They will do that every other week. And that actually does the exact same thing as if you were to just write an extra check at the end of the year for an extra month. It's the exact same thing. It's just two different ways of going about it. So that's called the bi-weekly payment plan. And a lot of banks will let you do that. The third is taxes. I don't know if you guys have ever, now Kevin, Carolyn, and I just got our assessor's thing in the mail. Did you guys get that, Kevin and Carolyn?
Oh, yeah.
Ours went up and our neighbors went down.
And was it a percent? What was the percentage that it went up by?
Almost
8%.
And our neighbors who have the same size house as us went down 7%.
So here's Kevin, do you know Rick Williams? He's in our men's group.
Yeah, I know, Rick.
He does this for a living. He fights taxes. So I actually had a 27% increase, not on my residence, but on the apartment buildings I own in Villa Park. And I said, oh my gosh, Rick, 27%. And he's like, tell me what your PIN numbers are. I'll do a quick research on it. And it turns out he didn't take me as a client because he knows he wouldn't win. He's like, they're still undervalued. You can fight it, but you're not going to get anywhere. I can give you Rick's email, and you email, all he'll ask you for is the PIN number of your house, and he'll do a quick calculation and tell you whether or not it's worth, because he'll go to the assessor and he'll fight for you, and it's cheap. I think he charges $300 or something like that, and you could end up saving, thousands of dollars. So it's a safe bet. So that's one idea that I have for you guys. If there's no risk. You just,
He didn't charge you the 300 when he just looked at the PIN and said, I can't help you, so I'm not going to.
Exactly. Now, right. So I shot him the PIN numbers, and then he said, no, I can't help you. If he would have came back and said, oh, you got a case, I would have paid him $300 or 400, whatever it is, and then he would have gone to bat for me. And he wins about 90% of the cases. So in other words, he only takes cases or files that he knows he can win. So that's worth at least an email to Rick. Now,
Absolutely.
Jennifer, I don't know about you. How often do you get assessed every year? Do they shoot you something in the mail and tell you what's up with that?
It's a little different in California. Usually it cannot go up beyond what your original price you paid for your house. So, but when like the economy took such a big hit, they actually reduced everyone's because it was ridiculous. You know, everyone lost so much in the value of their houses, but they're all creeping back up and hopefully not to go beyond what we originally paid for the house. So
right. And I'm not familiar with California at all, so I would be speaking out of my butt if I told you what to do. But that is just one, whether it's this year or 10 years from now, just know that you do have a legal right. And the funny thing is the county doesn't give you a lot of time to fight it. Like, I think it has to happen by November 30th for us. And we just got our letters in the mail like a week ago. So there's a small window.
When are your taxes usually due? Like ours are December and April.
When is ours, Kevin and Carolyn? Do you know?
I can tell you because ours are paid out of escrow.
So is ours. So I don't really know.
August and.
Is it June?
Yeah.
I think it's June and August.
Actually, May.
May and August.
I paid in May and August for whatever reason.
So yeah, they send us a letter on November 1st, and they'll give you 30 days to fight it, and after those 30 days, you're SOL. So, but then they're not due until May of that next year. And the way taxes work, you guys might already know this, but you pay in arrears. So basically, for our 2016 taxes, we're paying the taxes for what happened last year. So that, if you ever buy or sell a house, the taxes are a big piece of that puzzle because, if you say, I just sold my mom's house actually, and we paid our taxes for this year, but actually it was only for the occupancy of last year. So we had to come to the table at the close paying our portion between January 1st and say, September 30th. Let's say we closed on September 30th. So at the close, we actually had to write a check or put that in the closing statement of we had to pay January 1 through September 30th the taxes. So that's another sidebar. And then the last thing I want to mention is in this PowerPoint, there's a URL, and I don't think you guys need to know this since Jennifer is going through the refi right now, and Kevin and Carolyn, where are you guys with your refi right now?
We're in the middle of it. Yeah, we're almost done.
So this is just a quick calculator that tells you whether or not it's in your best interest to do it. So I just want to make sure that was available to you. All right.
I think
Go ahead.
Time we told you guys there was a claim that went to
right. On our credit report.
On our credit report that dinged us.
Yep.
Did we tell you about that?
You did.
So we ended up. The mortgage broker. This is great news. The mortgage broker told us to fight it. Mm-hmm. So I went on each credit report and disputed the claims and wrote why. And 2 out of the 3 so far as of today were deleted from our credit report, which is great news. So our credit went back up.
That's wonderful news. And was it an email or was it a phone call or what did you do?
It's online disputes, which is way easier than phone call. And you fill out like their forms and you dispute it. You write I wrote my dispute
explanation, right?
And my explanation. And within 3 days, we heard from 2 out of the 3 that they were deleted.
What he told us to do was to dispute it, and then they don't permanently take it off, but they take it and put it kind of to the side, if you will, and they count against your credit score for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So he's like, dispute it since it just went on there. It'll come off. We'll refinance you, so hopefully your credit score will stay up high. And then he was going to tell us, and then I'll walk you through trying to get it removed permanently.
Nice.
But when we disputed it, they just deleted it.
That was it.
Was
looked
it?
at our
Yeah.
credit, it was so perfect besides
Wow.
that one thing. So I was so grateful. So that was a good thing. If that ever happens to any of you guys, it is worth trying to get it
Yeah.
off.
And did you do that at all three of the credit reporting agencies, or did this thing show up on all three? Is the first question.
Yeah.
Showed up on all
It
three.
showed up on all
But
three, and we
this
did
made
all
a
three.
difference in this will make a difference. How much will we save on our points?
We'll save a quarter of a point on our interest
Which
rate.
meant like how much money?
I want to say it was like over the life of the 15 years, $30,000 or
Crazy.
By getting that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was going to be
So
my
that
next
was-
question. So so your interest rate was not locked in, Kevin and Carolyn. In other words, your
Not in-
broker, whoever helped you with that.
Right. Well, yes and no. It was locked in, but they lock it in at the lower one based on, because normally you lock in right at the beginning and then you go through the process, and if something shows up on your credit report, then they will adjust it.
Uh-huh.
So this one was actually locked in at the lower rate already.
Got it. So they thought it was going to tick up a quarter point, and they just kept it where it was.
Right.
That was great news.
Well,
That
we're
is.
hoping. We haven't.
Hoping.
It says it's been deleted, but we haven't gotten a revised credit score back.
Cross your fingers. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on real quick. The other part of session 3, and this is one that I personally am not really good at, which is the monthly expenses tab. This is really detailed, and I actually don't like tracking every dollar I spend, but I at least, some people like doing that. They like to say, okay, we're going to spend $300 this month on food, or we're going to spend $150 this month on going out to dinner, whatever. That's not the way I like to live my life. And if it means I'm going to save that much less for the month, I'm fine with that. But some people like to stick to a budget number. I don't expect or want you guys to feel like you have to do that, but I at least wanted to provide the opportunity of a monthly expenses tab. And really, it's what it is. It's I think if you can see it on the screen, this has everything in it. We talked a little bit about this last time, but these are all your payments, rent, mortgage, blah, 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 car. I mean, it has everything. So it's too detail oriented. But I at least wanted to make sure that you guys know that this was available. Do either of the three of you like that as an idea of actually doing it? I personally don't, so don't feel bad if you say, no, man, it's not my thing.
As I told you before, we actually do ours in Quicken.
Right. Do you look at it
And
though?
I've never pulled it up to look at it until you just said it, and I just ran the report, and it tells us exactly how much we spend for each one of our
No, I
things
don't like to
per
do
month.
that. That's hard.
But no, we don't look at it.
No. We're
Jennifer?
Just trying to be
Maybe
more
we should.
Right.
We're trying to be more mindful of our spending, but I can't live like that either.
I'm with you. Jennifer?
Yeah, totally would.
I use Quicken too, and so I don't give myself a set budget, but I like to know. It's nice that it's in Quicken because you can look at it and you can say, oh, wow, why was last month so expensive? Oh, we went out to dinner 10 times or something like that. So.
Right.
Yeah, I've never looked at it until right now.
Yeah. Well,
Mine pops up every time I open it. It will show me a pie graph and exactly where all the money is going, which I guess is good because it makes me look at it.
it's a reminder, yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to jump into actually what section 4 is about, which is diversification. All right. Let me move this down so I can see my notes. So what is diversification? This may be academic for you all, or maybe this is new information. The whole idea of diversification is to diversify either through the types of equities, stocks, bonds, cash, and everything else. And why do we do this? We do this because you can take the upside return while reducing, not eliminating, but reducing your downside risk. So that's the whole idea of what diversification is all about. Because if you have all your eggs in one basket and that you drop that basket and it comes crashing down, like in 2007 when I don't know if it was 2007, Lehman Brothers crashed, and then the stock market went down, however many thousands of points over those few months. If you had all your money in equities in U.S. companies, your portfolio was going to take a huge hit. So that's the idea behind diversification. A risk quiz. I don't know if you guys had a chance to take this, but it was pretty interesting. I took it myself, and it kind of just tells you and this is the tricky part because my risk tolerance is different than my wife's risk tolerance. So we have to kind of both come together and decide what's best for us. Um, so I don't know if you guys had a chance to take that risk quiz, but it's quick, it's easy, it takes like 2 minutes, and it just gives you an understanding of how much risk you're willing to take on. Because obviously, the more risk you're willing to take on, the higher upside. But counter to that is much bigger downside as well. So, and I'm 43 years old. I don't plan on retiring until I'm in my 60s or 70s or I don't know when. So I have so much of my money in U.S. stocks, and most of my money is in like spiders and things like that. I have some money in bonds. I have some money um, in real estate, but most of it is in U.S. stocks. Now, one thing I did learn through an exercise was I should probably broaden it out of the U.S. stock market and into international, just because there's a lot of upside in the international that you don't get in the U.S. So um, the whole idea of what diversification is you just got to make sure that your risk tolerance matches up with your what's in your portfolio. Because I could say that, oh, I want as much risk as possible, and then I figure out half my money is in, cash. Well, my risk and my portfolio are two different places. You just need to make sure that those two ideas are in alignment, and you also need to make sure that you rebalance it out about once a year, because as things go up and down, those percentages will go back and forth. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of that stuff?
No.
I have one. I don't know why, but to me, investing in out of the country, it makes me nervous. And I don't know, maybe it's because I am too U.S. based or something. And
Sure.
in the book, he mentioned quoting someone who said, if you invest in, Toyota or any Sony, I don't know, just throwing some out there,
Mm-hmm.
you are investing out of the country. What do you think about that?
I think what he was going after with that is if you say invest in a Spider, which is the top 500 companies, that has those companies in there. So you already are, let's say Toyota is one of the top 500 companies, whether it's U.S. or if they're from Japan or wherever, you are already owning a part of that. So I think, and I don't know if Kevin or Carolyn has any more insight. I think what he means is if you invest in an index fund, odds are there is some international stocks or equities already in that. So you already are investing internationally. What I was getting at is even with me investing most of my money in a Spider, there's index funds strictly for international companies. Like 100% of it is international. And what I kind of realized is I don't want, like 90% of my stocks are in a Spider or US index funds. And there's opportunities out there internationally that have much more upside. Now, your downside is bigger too, but there's emerging countries and emerging economies, and US was kind of more slow, methodical way of growing. Whereas if you invest in, I don't know, Greece is a scary country right now because of the amount of debt they have, and Ireland is, so they can go bankrupt, and what that would do is would really put a big hit on that portion of your portfolio. But if they make it through and they grow, they can grow much faster than the equities that will be in, an index fund with predominantly U.S. companies. Does that make sense? That's a long answer to a short question, but I wonder if that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense. And I'm just curious, for you, what percentage are you comfortable with investing internationally?
Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on, because I know I put this in here. Go to here. Oops.
Mine is, and I don't know if this is my target. This is my actual allocation. I don't know if it's my target or just is like 15%.
Right.
And I need somebody to do it. I don't do it, but
Yeah, I thought I did the analysis of looking at mine, but it was on a different, I'm on Kathy's computer, so I don't have it. My quick answer, Jennifer, is I don't remember how much. I just know that most of it was in US stocks through an index
Yeah.
fund. And what I want to risk is much higher than that. So if I really want to take advantage of some potentially pretty significant gains in appreciation, more of my money has to be diverted towards that. And this is kind of maybe not counterintuitive, but a separate point. I also realized that I didn't have any money in bonds at all. And bonds are typically more steady. There's actually a slide that I'm going to show in this presentation that talks about the return on bonds. They're just more secure. And the difference between a stock and a bond, you guys might already know this, but in case you don't, stock is you're actually taking ownership in the company. Say there's 1 million shares of Apple, you could buy one share for $300. Whereas a bond, AT&T issues bonds all the time. And what that is you're basically loaning AT&T money, and they're going to promise to give it back to you in a certain amount of time, whether it's 12 months, 24 months, 60 months, and they'll also pay you interest. So you're not owning the company; it's simply an IOU. So those typically, and what you have to do is you have to be careful, because if you invest in a company that goes belly up, you're completely out of luck. But most of the time, when you invest in, corporate bonds and things like that, it's a little safer, but the upside is also a little bit less. Like, I don't know, say a bond issue now is at like 2 or 3%. Well, that's not that much money. We're probably going to make more money investing in some type of index fund. But that was another thing I realized through my exercise was I had barely any money at all in bonds. So I was exposing myself on the downside as well. And it's forcing me to look at, maybe I should take money out of my SPDR and put it into some bond funds, which I have available in my 401k plan. If that makes sense. Once again, long answer, so I don't know if that makes sense to you guys or not, but that's kind of where that's kind of how I see it.
No, that makes
Right.
sense.
Okay.
So I also think one thing on your international diversity, Todd. I don't think it needs to be in a SPDR or an index fund,
right,
to the diversity. I think part of Tony's point was that even if you invest in like McDonald's, while it's a U.S. company,
yeah,
it's still international in scope, and so it's impacted by what happens all over the world.
Got
if you
it.
invest in Caterpillar or any of those large companies
That exports,
chances are
right,
business all over the world anyways. So it's becoming less and less, compartmentalized per country as opposed to more global.
And that could be what he meant versus what I meant, and maybe it's a combination of both. But yes, if you invest in Apple, obviously Apple is heavily invested in China because that's where they make all their parts. So you can say, yeah, I'm investing in the people of China because Apple employs them quite a bit. So that could be what Tony was getting at. I'd have to reread that section, but somewhere between those two answers, between my answer and Kevin's answer, I think you'll get it. So I want to talk about the 3 buckets Tony talks about. One is the security bucket, and your security bucket is the money that you cannot afford to lose. Your risk growth bucket, that's where we start making our money. And then your dream bucket, and Tony's big into dreams and things like that. So security bucket, I don't want to bore you guys with details, but in the security, these are the different types of investments that are categorized in your security bucket. Obviously, cash, you have your money in your bank account. That's secure because it's insured by the federal government, $250,000, then maybe up to $500 if you are married. So even if the bank went out of business and went bankrupt, the federal government promises that they will pay that money to you. And that came as a result of 1929 when we had the Depression. The thing that set it off were the bank runs. The bank went out of business and all the people were screwed out of their money. So the federal government got smart. It's shocking to think that it took a depression or a plummet in the stock market to figure that very obvious thing. It's basically an insurance policy. And the fact that they didn't figure that out up to that point is kind of mind-boggling to me. But so that's besides the point. Then there's bonds. We talked about that. CDs, that's a certificate of a deposit. That's basically you give money to a bank, and the bank's going to say, okay, I'm going to pay you back a little bit over time. And the longer you let them have that money, the higher interest rate they'll pay you. So a 1-year CD will warrant a lot less interest than a 10-year CD because the bank likes to know that they don't have to pay you back in 10 years. Pension is in your security bucket. Annuities, which is basically an insurance product. Life insurance, we should talk about that. I hope and think that everybody in this call has term life insurance, and I don't want to embarrass you if you don't, but let's be honest with one another. Kevin and Caroline, do you have term life insurance?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, good. Out of curiosity, do you guys have other types of like whole life and all that other stuff?
Yeah, I have a little bit of whole life.
Jennifer?
I don't know why.
Yeah, that was one of the things that's on my to-do list is to look into it because we have whole life too, and I know Tony talked about that and finding out what exactly you have and why, and
Yeah, I'm not
give
an
money
expert.
to somebody.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on whole life, and maybe I'll do a little research before next call, but the only thing I do know is that even though I can't explain why, everybody says whole life is a scam. You can get to the exact same place with that investment for less cost and less fees. So maybe part of your guys' homework would be to kind of figure out at least how much you have invested in whole life, and maybe you can liquidate that and put that money in a more efficient vehicle. So that's something that we could talk about. And then structured notes, which are market linked CDs. So I had a bunch of notes I want to talk about there, but I don't, for the sake of time, I don't want to get too far into any of those. So let's go to the next slide. Risk growth bucket, where we make our money. We talked about this a lot, but I'll just go over it real quick. Equities, real estate, commodities, currencies, collectibles, and structured notes. So these are all different ways to make more money. Some people love equities, which are stocks. Some people love real estate. I happen to have a little bit of real estate. Some people invest in gold, and gold is something you can make a lot of money on, or it could sit there and lose value. It's pretty volatile. So that's the risk growth bucket. And then lastly is our dream bucket. And Tony's big into this. So I mentioned in one of my emails that a short-term dream bucket for me is to save enough money so my family can go away next summer for, say, 4 days on a house on a lake. So that's my short-term dream bucket. And from understanding and learning from Tony, he's like, unless you set a goal and you write it down, it's that much less likely to happen. So I defer to the three of you. Have you guys talked about, and the dream bucket could be as small as renting a house on a lake for next summer, or it could be have enough money in my kids' 529 plan to know that I'm not going to have to spend any more money in paying their college tuition because it's all going to be taken care of. So you could dream really big, like the one I just said, or you could dream small, which is, rent a lake house for a weekend. Have you guys thought about that at all?
Yeah, we have.
We have.
Do you want to share it or no? And you don't have to.
We dreamed big. We did big.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a good dream, and we're living the dream. We are building a home out in Utah.
Oh my goodness, love it.
Yeah.
So
a dream, and
is this
we're making it happen.
So is this something you're setting a goal towards, or this is happening and you've already you haven't realized the dream, but
It's kind of like a dream and it's happening.
Wonderful.
So we're doing everything possible to create that space by not creating more here in our home here. We're trying to, if that's really going to happen and this is what we need to make it happen, we're making sure that we're doing that to make it happen.
And does
that make sense?
It does. It completely makes sense.
We're not spending money here right now. We're not spending anything because we to make that happen, we can't spend any money.
Is this something you're planning to, is it like a summer thing, like a house that in addition to your primary residence, or would you guys pick up and move?
No, in addition to this, it's
A vacation.
a vacation home,
Yeah.
right? And we're doing it with my brother.
Nice.
Thank
And,
God.
and would you try to rent it when it's not being used to try to turn some money into it, or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's kind of limited as far as who you can rent it. It's part of a bigger development
Hmm.
where there's like 300 homes, there will be 300 homes on it, and you can only rent it, and it has a golf course and some private fishing water and stuff like that. And you can only rent it to people that are members of the clubs, because if I rented it to somebody who wasn't a member, they couldn't use any of the facilities that are there, so
Got it.
they probably wouldn't. Um,
So that's our dream.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Jennifer, anything?
I guess it would be a boat.
Wow.
Not like a yacht or anything like that, just a nice modest boat. We have a lake nearby. It'd be nice to go there on the weekend with the family.
And is it like a 1 year dream? Is it a 10-year dream? Like realistically, is
Probably
it?
like a 5 year, I'm guessing.
Do you know what the boat would look like?
Yes.
Then
Um,
I encourage you to do a Google search for your boat and cut it out and put it somewhere that you'll be reminded of it.
okay.
Um,
Good idea.
it's
yeah.
funny if you look at something often enough, it will start embedding itself inside of you. Versus if it's just in your brain, it's weird, and I can't explain why, but it's less likely to happen.
It's
And,
Yeah.
so true. It's so true.
but that's awesome. I'm glad the three of us have dream buckets, and I love you guys.
What
So
was your?
mine is just
Usually.
it's funny. Like I don't know, and maybe that's a little bit of my personality. It's like I don't want to dream too big. I love the fact that you guys are like, a boat, like renting a house, but like I want to be able to realize it quickly. I mean, I could do it's funny. I always defer to. I'm so worried about my daughter's college tuition because I don't know what college is going to cost. I don't know what college they're going to go to. Like I'm so scared, and like that. My dream is honestly to have enough money in their 529 plan that it's all taken care of. But that's just such a
I think that's definitely our dream too. I guess we just never put it as that dream. That's definitely a goal for sure. And
yeah.
we've got one right now, so we're living that one too.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on. This is our friend Warren Buffett from Omaha. I actually drove by his house when I was in Omaha last time, which is pretty conservative. He still drives a pickup truck, and he's one of the wealthiest people in the world, or in the history of the world. I put this quote in there just because it's an important one. We simply attempt to be fearful when others are greedy, and to be greedy when others are fearful. For example, in 2007, when the market hit the fan, everybody started selling. I don't know if you guys started selling, but most of the people out there started selling. And this conversely, as the stock market continues to do well, because it's been on quite a run for the last 3 or 4 years, there will be a time when you're like, you want to put so much more money into the market because you've seen the returns over the last few years. And that might be a time to start selling some of those things and putting them into safer investments. If I had a crystal ball and I knew exactly, because the one thing I learned from Tony's book is it will never keep going up. The whole definition of a stock market is that it goes up and down. So it's funny how we all get so paranoid when things go down, when that is the whole point of the stock market. It has ups and downs. It doesn't continuously go up. So it's just an important quote that I at least want to put into your mindsets. So, if the stock market could have another great 5 years, I don't know. If I did, I wouldn't be talking on this phone. But when you get to that point, then it might not be a bad idea to start pulling some of the money out of those equities and putting them into a little bit safer investment. Okay, mortgages we talked about. Tricks to savings we talked about that. Protecting your credit. I wanted to talk about this because this is not from Tony's book, but it's from our conversation last time. Uh, there is something called credit monitoring. Now, I think this is the same as what you did, Kevin. What was the name of your company? LifeLock?
LifeLock, yeah.
So I would encourage you because there's a guy named Clark Howard and he does a podcast. He's kind of like the Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey type. I did a little research on it and he said he thinks that a better way of doing it is to do what's called a credit freeze. But he said if you are going to do a credit monitoring, and you tell me, like, I don't pretend to understand exactly what LifeLock does, but I think they monitor your credit, and if something goes haywire or somebody tries to open up a credit card in your name with your identification, they will call you before that happens. Is that what LifeLock does?
Yes.
Okay.
So that if it's not you, they'll go back and say that's not
This
that's not
isn't
them,
Kevin.
and so they won't open it up and they can't obviously use it or whatever,
Okay.
as
So
opposed to not knowing for a month or whatever that somebody has your credit and it's too late.
So I'm going to send you this link so you can see what I looked at because Clark Howard is somebody whom I trust. I've been listening to his podcast for years. He's the cheapest SOB you ever want to meet in the world, and I mean that as the highest compliment. Like he gets
Right.
the best deal, but he also makes sure that the service is a reputable one and a good one. And there's a link that I'll share with you, and I'll share it with everybody, of the difference between LifeLock and a company like Credit Karma. I think Credit Karma does the exact same thing, but it does it for a lot cheaper. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up because I don't think, is it a month? How do you pay LifeLock? Is it once a month, once a year? How does it work?
You can pay, you can pay monthly, you can pay quarterly, you can pay semi-annually or yearly.
Got
And
it.
it's obviously cheaper if you pay the whole year
Yeah.
as opposed to.
So that's something, and I would love for you to call them and see, sometime between now and what our next call is, and see if maybe that they would save you some money. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what's called credit freezing. Have you guys ever heard of that term?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I understand about credit freezing is it basically uh, stops anybody, including yourself, from the possibility of getting any type of credit in your name with your social security number. But what it also does, I think, is that they'll give you a PIN number. So in other words, let's say you're at Home Depot and you actually want to open up a Home Depot credit card. There's a PIN number that you can put in and it will allow you to thaw your credit for that moment. So basically, unless you have the PIN number, nobody, including yourself, can open up any type of credit in your name. And what he said was it is anywhere between $0 and $10, I think, a year, but you have to do it with all three bureaus. But it basically is a much more direct thing than the monitoring, and it's actually a lot cheaper. So I'm going to send you guys that link too. And that is if you truly, because I think, Kevin, you had some experience with somebody opening up, or no, your friend had some experience, right? Or was it you guys?
Yeah, that's why we got the LifeLock. Yeah, the identity theft. Yes.
And did that
So
happen
that's what
to
we
you, or it happened to somebody you knew?
happened to someone I knew,
Got it.
and then he spent thousands of dollars trying to get it all cleared up, and
Hmm.
What are you gonna do, Ted?
I think I'm probably going to do the credit freeze. I haven't done it yet, but I think it's something I should do. I mean, it just makes too much sense. I'm reading some notes. The credit freeze, it seals your credit reports, and you use a personal ID number, which I just talked about. The added layer of security means that thieves cannot establish new credit in your name, even if they are able to obtain your identification. Freezing your credit has no impact whatsoever on your existing lines of credit. So in other words, it doesn't do anything to your existing credit cards. The cost ranges from $3 to $10 per person per bureau to freeze your credit report. And it's imperative that you freeze your credit with all three bureaus. But $3 to $10 per person, and that might just be a flat fee. And the only inconvenience is if you do want to go get a loan, you're going to have to unfreeze it for that moment. But I never do the Home Depot credit cards. I tell Kathy, do not get the stupid Target credit card, even if they save you 10%. So I rarely ever need new credit. So there's really no reason for me not to do it. I think the reason I've been complacent with it is because I've never gotten burned by it. But I don't feel like I should have to get burned by it for me to be a little bit more money smart.
Yeah, that sounds like a way better idea than the LifeLock.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll send those links to you guys so you could check them out, and maybe we'll decide as a group, hey, this is a good deal, because $3 to $10 per person. So I would have to freeze my credit, my wife's credit. Let's say it's $10 each. So that's $20 times 3 bureaus. That's $60, and that's the best money ever spent. The only thing is, I always tend to err on the side that nothing will ever go wrong. I'm kind of eternally optimistic and don't think anybody's ever going to dig through the trash and steal my social security number or credit cards or whatever. But there's a difference between being smart and just being stupid. And I don't know, maybe that's something that I should look into doing, because it really doesn't cost that much.
Right.
So as I close out this session, I want to go right here and go to the workout card. So for the workout card is to complete the portfolio tab. And this is just a very quick and dirty thing that I did. Just have all of your investments on a single piece of paper. Kathy has some teaching Illinois retirement stuff. I have some money in an index fund. I have a lot of money in a 401k. I have money in my address, in my home address. It's just nice to have it all in one place. And then hopefully it's not too hard to see what percentage each one is in. Like in my 401k, this is what I was talking about. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yeah.
So 64%, and I'm semi-embarrassed to admit this, 64% is in the S&P 500. 25% is in the Russell Small Cap Index Securities, and the classification is risk growth. And then I have 5% in cash. So this is just in my 401k, but obviously I don't have any money in bonds. I got next to nothing in cash. And even a risky portfolio, like I think I'm really way, way, way on the risk side as far as a balanced portfolio. So I say this to you guys out loud just so you can do your own portfolio, so you could see how much is in which one. Like if you have 95% in cash and bonds, obviously that's silly. But if you have 95% or 65% in stocks, then that's not really the best idea either. So I encourage you to fill out a portfolio tab where all of your long-term investments, and when I say long-term, I'm talking about 1 year or more, and put your home in there. But instead of your putting the value in there, if you have any equity in it, just put that equity in it, because that's really what's at stake. So that's the first part of the workout card. And then the second part is to just take the risk quiz, which is in the spreadsheet. And it'll give you a better idea of whether or not your portfolio matches up with your risk tolerance. So that'll be our homework for the next session. Anybody have any questions about anything we've talked about, or something we haven't talked about but you just want to know more about?
That thing that you were talking about, the Credit Karma.
Yeah.
Versus Credit Freeze. You think you're going to do the Credit Freeze
the
Credit Karma?
No,
or
I think I'm just going to do the Credit Freeze. I think the reason somebody might do Credit Karma or LifeLock is they may be taking loans out more often than I would. So it's kind of an inconvenience. If you know that you're going to take access to new credit once a month or a few times a year, it might not be worth doing the Credit Freeze, because you have to kind of unfreeze it and then freeze it back up. Whereas credit monitoring, Credit Karma or LifeLock, you won't have to do any of that. Like, so, you could try to take a line of credit out on your home or whatever. Somebody will call you, you'll say, yep, that's me, and then you go on with your business. So the credit freeze is an inconvenience if you are going to take additional credit out in your name. But if you're not, I haven't seen any information that has convinced me that a credit freeze is not the best thing for me.
Great. You just saved us a lot of money.
Yeah. And Kevin, do you remember what your fees are on LifeLock?
It's expensive. I want to. It's like $400 a year or something.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of money. I don't know. That's still $400 a year divided by.
And that's me.
So that includes both you guys?
No, each.
Each. Okay,
That's
so let's call it $800 a year divided by 12. Oops. I think it's $67 a month. 800 divided by 12. Yeah, $67 a month. So if you add that up over 10 years, you know, $800 times, that's $8,000 you're going to be spending to protect your credit. And if you could just do a credit freeze, and it's $3 to $10 per person per bureau, and there's no monthly or annual fee, that might be a slam dunk for you.
Yeah, I never knew that was even a thing.
Yeah, I listened to Clark Howard's podcast. He's a really good resource. And I'm sure you can get that information anywhere. He just happens to be one of my guys. Jennifer, do you have any thoughts on the credit freeze? Have you ever done anything like that, protecting your identity?
No, but after the last call, I looked at the LifeLock, and I guess there's 3 different tiers depending on the protection you need, but they're all pretty pricey.
Yeah.
So I just did what Laura had said, that you can get your credit report for free each year.
Mm-hmm.
The government requires the agencies to give it to you.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I just did it for my husband and I, and we haven't done that in a long time. And we looked at it and we're like, okay, everything looks good there, but still a risk.
This is
just to look at it once a year. If someone could take it in 6 months, totally destroy you.
Right. So this is the article that I read, and I know I'm over time, but I think it's important. This is off of Clark Howard's website, and this is what I said. This is what I read this morning. LifeLock is a company that I'm asked about regularly. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so just read that real quick. It won't take you long, but as long as we're talking about it, let's all be informed. So go ahead and read that.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Well, and it's funny, Kevin. It says their service starts at $10 monthly or $109 annually. So I think they probably have different levels of protection, and it sounds like it might be, I don't want to call it a scam, but it sounds like they're taking advantage. Let's just put it that way. And I don't.
No, it's like you pay it because you're afraid.
Yeah, well, and they, that's a wonderful motivator. Fear is probably one of the best motivators around.
Yeah.
Oh, let me get rid of that. Hold on. Here we go. I don't know when that article was written. I think it was about a year ago. So it might be somewhat outdated, but yeah, I think Kevin and Carolyn, it might be best to look at other things. And maybe that'll be on our report card. Maybe we'll all look into that, and hopefully Laura and Nate will also take a look at it. So good questions, good dialogue. I can't say thank you enough for you guys taking the time out of your busy day. Any last minute questions?
Will it be section 5 next time?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, and I've read the book twice already, but I don't remember what section 5 is yet. But yes, section 5 will be on it, and I'll send you guys a follow-up email based on, the high points of tonight's discussion. I do want to look at my calendar just to make sure we're all on the same date, because our next one is scheduled for, I might be on an airplane a week on November 24th. So we might have to do, I'm going to send you guys an email to see what date works best because that's Thanksgiving week. We certainly don't want to do Wednesday before school. Everybody's going to be traveling and in vacation mode. So let me ask you this. Monday the 23rd. Does anybody have a conflict? You have, Mondays are bad for you, aren't they, Kevin, or no?
No, not right now. My lacrosse is done for now.
Carolyn, what about you?
Perfect.
Jennifer?
That should be fine. I'm traveling but coming back that afternoon, so shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so we're going to shoot for Monday the 23rd. I have to double check with Laura and Nate, but hopefully they're good with it. And then we will talk about the Section 5, whatever it's called. So thank you to the three of you for being so awesome. I feel like we're making some progress, and just know that I'm available to you, email, phone, whatever. I'm here at your disposal as we continue on with this program. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, guys, have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.